Hey guys, vegan cyclists. Today we're talking about power meters and how to actually use these. I mean, like the actual application of using a power meter. Now, a power meter, hands down, the best training tool you could ever get. But a power meter is a tool. This thing does not add watts to your FTP. So you're gonna have to use it to gain any benefits from it. Now this video is like straight to the point. If you want to learn more about how to like get started with a power meter and some of the more details, you can watch my other video here. But okay, so you have a power meter, it's on your bike, you're out on the road. What's the first thing you do? Well, that is to get your zones. You got to have some kind of context for these power numbers to exist in. Without your zones, you have no clue as to what your power numbers actually mean to you. All right, so all you need to do is a 30-minute workout. Now, this is gonna be basically the hardest you can go for 30 minutes. Not as hard as you can go and then 30 minutes, but as hard as you can for that duration of 30 minutes. I would recommend, if it's definitely your first time using a power meter, don't even look at it, because you're gonna have a way overly optimistic view of what you can hold for that average of 30 minutes. So don't look at it, and just, it should feel like semi-easy in the first little bit, like the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then you should work into it feeling super hard at the end. That will give you your best result to having the best average for your 30 minutes. I would also recommend maybe doing it again in like a week, just to make sure that your numbers are pretty accurate. Other than like that first once or twice, you really shouldn't do your FTP test more than once every 2 months. And usually only when you think that you're seeing some sort of progression or regression in your fitness. So if the workouts are becoming really easy, then you might need to reset your zones, or if they're becoming really hard, like if you can never finish a workout, then your zones are probably off, and then you may want to do another FTP at that point. But okay, so you got your FTP, and let's say it's 300 watts. Now you're gonna add some math to this, or you can just go to datacrankers.com, which is super crazy awesome. Take this number, your 30-minute average, throw it into that website, and bam, it spits out all your zones for you. Now these zones are really pretty accurate. I got my VO2 max done, so it was like to the watt, right? But you could definitely, don't need a VO2 max. You can use these numbers to gauge and build your workouts on. All right, so you did your workout, you've got your zones, now what? Well, you're gonna be able to use your power meter in one of 3 ways. The first way, most important way, is to go hand in hand with some kind of structured training program. That's really what a power meter is for. If you don't have any structure in your program or in your training, there really isn't a whole lot of need for a power meter. Now, you don't necessarily need a coach or a program to have structured training, right? You can make up your own, or you can look online, but basically you could just say, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do zone 2 out to my workout. I'm gonna do 2 10-minute efforts in zone 4, and then I'm gonna do zone 2 on the way home. You're gonna use your power meter to make sure that you are in those zones. This is gonna maximize the amount of time that you have on your bike and make sure that you are specifically in the right zone all the time. Now, if you don't believe me and you're one of those old school guys like, man, I've got my zones in my head and I totally don't need a power meter, well, check this out. I just went out and did a little experiment. I did 1 minute in each zone, 1, 2, 3, and 4, once not looking at the power meter and once looking at it. So I thought I was really gonna just crush this, right? Because I have a lot of time using a power meter, so I feel really comfortable with how my body feels in certain zones because I just stare at my power meter all the time. But you can see here that on the effort where I didn't look at my power meter, I was a full zone ahead of where I thought I was. Thought I was in zone 1, but I was actually zone 2. Thought I was zone 2, actually zone 3. This is not good. And this is why a power meter is so amazing, is because you're way over optimistic about your efforts. So then you can see my second effort here where I'm staring at the power meter and I'm perfectly in each zone for each one of the minutes. It's right on. And the perceived exertion was way less. Like I felt way better on the second effort than I did the first effort. It's like going to the gym and having no numbers on any of the weights. Like you have no idea what you're really doing. You have no way to gauge progress, and it's gonna just be all messed up, right? You're just kind of randomly feeling around. But with the power meter, you can see here when I did this effort, man, I was just like straight into that zone. Like the entire time I'm doing this effort, I'm in the zone I'm prescribed to be in, maximizing my time on the bike and my gains. But okay, so let's say you don't have a structured training program, you don't have a coach, and you're really not that into training, but you have a power meter. How can you get some use out of it? And the other 2 ways that you can do this is one, by just managing your endurance over a sustained effort. So like a century ride, you could totally use a power meter to make sure that you spend very little time in zone 1 and more of your time in zone 2 and 3 and very little time in zone 4 and 5, right? So that the endurance zones, the tempo zones, the ones that you can hold and sustain for a very long time without burning out, but at like the best of your ability. It doesn't have to be a century, right? So if you just go out for a normal ride, if you're doing the whole thing in zone 1, like that's not doing anything for you. And if you're only doing like 10 seconds in zone 5, and then the rest of the time in like zone 3, but you felt like you were going all out, that's also not doing anything for you. So when you're on a normal ride, you can make sure that you're actually in a power producing zone and that you're actually putting some kind of adaptation stress on your body. You can also kind of like use your average power as sort of like a life bar. Like envision like a video game almost, and your average power over that whole ride, with enough data, with enough time using the power meter, you'll get a really good sense of what you can and can't hold. So like in a race, I kind of have this idea of like, okay, my average power, my best average power ever is like 300 watts for a race. Well, if in the first 10 minutes I'm like 330 watt average, I know that I'm not going to be able to sustain that effort, and that that's not a good time to go on an attack, because there's no way that I'll be able to sustain that off the front. Like my life bar is low, it's blinking red. Now, vice versa though, towards say the end of the race and my average power is like 220 watts, well, I know I have a really big effort still in the motor, still in my tank. I can crush it. And so I know that I'm gonna go off the front on a flyer or something like that and have a much better chance of sustaining that effort. The third way to use your power meter is just to gauge your overall progression or regression in your training. If you use your power meter right and you look at it all the time, you'll be able to catalog basically a lot of intel and data over the course of your cycling career. And you can really like take the analytics of it and start to look at when your peak is, what kind of power you've produced at what times, and really tweak your own program without a coach to make sure that you're getting the most out of the time on the bike. It does take a little while to build up this catalog of data, but it's really neat to look back on all that and be able to make new goals for the future. Like, hey, you know what I really want to do? I want to be able to hit 250 watts for 3 hours, or I want to hit a new maximum power of 1400 watts in a sprint or something like that. These power meter numbers can give you real obtainable, like tangible goals that are not subject to like wind or like heart rate or if you got too much coffee or not. All right guys, let's wrap this up, dude. It's supposed to be a real quick video and I got all rambling on. But so you get a power meter, you do a 30-minute test, you take that average, put it into datacrankers.com, get your FTP and your zones all mapped out, then structure some sort of program and use your power meter to get the most out of your program, or also use it as a data collection to make sure that you're progressing in your training program, and also use it to get the most out of every single pedal stroke. Guys, thank you so much. I really want to do like an FAQ or like question and answers type video. So if you have any questions about me personally, just like on where I live or whatever in my program, put those questions down below. I'll take them, I'll put them into a separate little video. It will be dope. We'll all have a good time. Guys, thank you so much. Vegan Cyclist. Yeah.